New York's biggest party of the year is just 4 days away, and Tom Harris of the Times Square Alliance says they are prepared for any possible disruptions on New Year's Eve.
I think it's a pretty safe bet that someone is going to try to do something to distract or disrupt the events in Times Square.
ABC News has obtained a threat assessment saying the ball drop could draw interest from malicious actors or lone offenders reacting to the Israel-Hamas war. This week is considered the deadliest of the year for heart attacks.
It sounds almost like an urban legend, but
two peaks that we see in heart attacks and deaths are December 25th and January 1st.
Says cardiologist Dr. Wahaj Aman. Stress, overindulging in food and drink, even cold weather contribute to the risk. Best advice, he says, is to get some exercise. That doesn't mean suddenly becoming a gym rat.
I think it starts with, I'm going to start moving a little bit more.
A healthy and achievable New Year's resolution. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
The New York Times has filed a federal lawsuit against OpenAI and Microsoft seeking to end the practice of using its stories to train chatbots. The lawsuit seeks billions of dollars in damages. It could signal a shift in moviegoer tastes. For the first time in more than 2 decades, the top 3 movies at the box office this year didn't include a sequel or a remake. Barbie, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and Oppenheimer all led movie ticket sales in 2023. I'm Dave Packer, ABC News.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:04. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. A West Jordan family is picking up the pieces the day after the RV they call home caught fire on Christmas night. Kelly Zeman says she and her husband were out to dinner Monday night when she says they got a call from a neighbor that their RV was on fire. When they finally got home, she says the RV, which also doubles as their mode of transportation, was torched. The West Jordan Fire Department responded to the fire and got it under control. While Zeman and her husband were not home at the time the blaze broke out, she says their dog Sky was and survived, but unfortunately is in pretty bad condition. The American Red Cross, which has volunteers on standby 24/7, had 2 volunteers come out around 8 p.m. to assist Zeman and her husband. Red Cross says those volunteers ensured that Zeman and her husband had access to essential items like food and clothing, replacement of prescription medicines, and a safe place to stay. Zeman says she is thankful they were not home or injured in the blaze. KBNU News Time is 4:05. KBNU weather for tonight. Mostly cloudy skies is the forecast. Overnight low in the low 20s. Cloudy in the morning and then partly cloudy skies. High in the upper 30s. Patchy fog Friday morning. Mostly sunny. High around 40. It's 31 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Cache Valley Chevron stations. Download the Chevron app and join Chevron Rewards. Then you can save $1 per gallon on your next 3 visits. Visit any Cache Valley Chevron station for all the details.
Is your family visiting for the holidays, or are they already here? Well, they have laundry to do using your machines, and it'll take away hours from your family time. We'll send them to Mount Logan Laundry with the large 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers that dry 30% faster. They'll find clean, comfortable environment with free Wi-Fi internet and drop-off service, and they'll be back in no time. Recommend Mount Logan Laundry. They're at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South. Mount Logan Laundry, the cleanest spot in town.
KBNU News Time is 4:07. No injuries were reported after a semi overturned on I-15 in Millard County. Officials responded to the scene Tuesday morning near milepost 138. They said the semi had been hauling tires. Medical crews were called to the crash, but the driver was not transported to the hospital. One lane was closed while crews worked to clean up the accident before it was moved to the side of the road and did not appear to be impacting traffic. Additional information about what led up to the crash was not immediately available. And a 10-year-old boy sustained serious head trauma after officials said he was struck by a car in Utah County. They responded at about 2:10 p.m. Tuesday to the intersection of Pony Express Parkway and Porter's Crossing in Eagle Mountain. A car was reportedly traveling north on Porter's Crossing and made a right turn to head east onto Pony Express Parkway when the 10-year-old on the sidewalk fell into the path of the car. They said the boy was flown by an AirLife helicopter to Primary Children's Hospital with serious head trauma. Utah County officials said the driver remained at the scene and no impairment was suspected. The scene was cleared about 1 hour after first responders arrived. KVNU News Time is 4:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
The Aggies are back on KVNU. Hear every game along with the best coverage before and afterwards on News Talk KVNU, the home again for the Aggies.
Dr. Josh Redd, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
If you have low thyroid and you're taking thyroid medication, the biggest question you should ask yourself is what's causing my low thyroid specifically? If you don't know the answer to that question, it's important to call us. At Red River, we identified triggers that will cause the low thyroid to begin with. One of the most common causes of low thyroid is a disease called Hashimoto's disease. This is an autoimmune disease that is a lot more complicated than just a primary thyroid issue. This is why people will be on thyroid hormone but still feel little to no improvement because nothing's being done to address the bigger, more complicated problem, which is Hashimoto's. If you have low thyroid or you have an autoimmune disease and you're on medication and still don't feel well, call Red River.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
Wow, Dave, what's the matter? You don't look so good. You look like you're under a lot of stress.
You're right, Bob. And looks aren't deceiving. I thought turning 65 would be easy. Boy, was I wrong. Every day I go to the mailbox, I'm inundated with mail, bombarded with phone calls from telemarketers, and when I turn on the TV, all I see is Medicare commercials. It's like a bad dream I can't wake up from.
I know how you feel, Dave. I felt the same way.
So what'd you do?
I went to Jessup Insurance. I can't believe the peace of mind they've given me. They've helped me to understand Medicare and explained all of my insurance options. Dave, hey, Dave, where are you going?
I'm heading to Jessup Insurance to get rid of this bad dream.
Say goodbye to all the Medicare confusion. Call Jessup Insurance, 435-213-3200, or Google Jessup Insurance.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
Maple Creek Ranch is excited to announce they just finished the asphalt on all the roads. So come drive the smooth roads and see what this piece of paradise is all about, which is now in its fourth and final phase of development. If you've always dreamed of living in the mountains, Maple Creek Ranch is for you. Surrounded by miles of wilderness, babbling brooks, horse riding, and hiking trails, with 2.5-acre lots to build your dream home. Learn more at maplecreekranch.net or hop in the car and come see it for yourself, just east of Franklin, Idaho. Thank you. UNI Furniture wants to say thank you to all of their friends and customers. UNI Furniture is grateful to be a family business, now in their 5th generation. For over 90 years, they've always offered a good product at a good price. And that's why they say you'll always find a better buy at UNI. Stop by and see them this holiday season with lots of store-wide specials and great bargains. Purchase any sofa or sectional, and UNI says thank you with $100 off on any chair to go with it. UNI Furniture in downtown Logan.
There is no better time than the present to make your health your priority. This is Dan at the Sports Academy. Whether you want to get back into shape, increase your lean muscle, or just create lifelong healthy habits, the Sports Academy will help you achieve your health and fitness goals. Our certified instructors, trainers, and Pilates coaches have the tools to help you reach the next level in fitness. Make your health a top priority at the Sports Academy. Your club, your results, your life.
The Above and Beyond Salute.
Hello. Stacy, my name is Will Theoride. I understand that you're a delivery nurse?
Yeah, I am.
Well, this individual said that for years you have been willing to work others' shifts when they're sick, that you're a really kind person, and that you would do anything for anybody. And so we just want to call and recognize you with a $40 gift card to Firehouse Subs.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. Thank you very much.
The Above and Beyond Salute, sponsored by Firehouse Subs on News Talk KVNU.
KVNU's For the People, recapping 2023, talking about ways you can get involved in the community this week and throughout the rest of 2023 and into 2024, all of the above coming up this hour of radio. Thank you for joining us. A short show today. We'll be wrapping up a bit early to make room for Logan High. Taking over around, I believe it's a 5:30 tip-off tonight here on KVNU. We'll start things about 10 minutes early, so only 1 hour of For the People today. Well, 1 hour and a few minutes into hour two, what would traditionally be our hour two. So, but I've got you all set for hour one, at least, of this short show today with some more best-ofs of 2023 and more. Including what, for me, was one of the, well, I don't know if it was the most important story in 2023. It's the one that stands out to me the most of news stories of 2023. This is not a local story. This is not a Utah story. This is not even a U.S. story. It's actually an international story. I won't spoil it, but that was my the story that stuck with me the most. That's coming up in just a bit here. But best of 2023. We talked a little bit about yesterday on the show. We talked about the box office, but with Barbie, Oppenheimer, Disney's Little Mermaid, live action, and more topping the list of movies that just raked in the dough. On Friday's show, Andy Morgan will be with us to tell you his top 10 list of movies you should absolutely see and recommendations he made to the Utah Film Critics Association and more. But I thought this list was interesting, and I've linked to it on our Facebook page. The top 10 best movies of the year, according to ABC News critic Pete Travers, who is one of my favorites, actually. But he made a list of top 10 movies that if you didn't see, you should. If you did see, you should see again. Number 10, Barbie. Number 9, May, December. This is what Travers calls a slippery tease of a movie classified as a comedy. But he said, this is a tearjerker. This is the story of a man and his wife and their slowly dissolving marriage. It doesn't sound like a comedy, but he said it's done so well, and that he really believes that Natalie Portman has hit the peak of her career and that it's on display in this movie. One I finally saw, and I happen to know, spoiler alert, this is on Andy's list of top movies of the year that he'll be talking about on Friday, and that he recommended to the Utah Film Critics Association as one of their top award winners. That will be voted on in January. The Holdovers. This stars Paul Giamatti and a newbie whose name I forget, a young kid, and directed by Alexander Payne. This looked like, when I saw the trailer, I first thought this looked a little bit like a ripoff of Dead Poets Society from the 80s, but with a twist. It's the story of a teacher who draws the short straw that year at a private school where everyone goes home for Christmas break except for those who don't have anywhere to go on Christmas break. They stay at the residence at the private school. And one teacher each year draw straws. One teacher each year loses and has to spend their Christmas break at the school babysitting the kids. And it's the story of this grumpy professor, played by Paul Giamatti, and this really annoying, actually, at first, young man. And what happens to them over this week-long Christmas break. It's a really, really good movie. Number 7 on Travers' list, The Zone of Interest. Number 8, Maestro. Andy will be talking about this more on Friday, too. Written and directed and starring Bradley Cooper. The story of controversial and world-famous conductor-composer Leonard Bernstein. And we'll get to that more in detail on Friday. American Fiction. I'm just hearing about this one, honestly. But this is one that everybody says you have to see. It's the story of Thelonious Monk. If you've never heard the name, Thelonious Ellison, and a black novelist who was pretty frustrated at a certain point and made himself famous by expressing his frustration that his books, really well reviewed, were just never making him any money. And the story that plays out around that, a true story, story of racism in America, but some of the most subtle racism you'll ever see. Anatomy of a Fall makes Traver's list as well. No list. I have nothing about this other than it is the tale of a wife on trial for killing her husband by pushing him out a window. And sounds like comedy, right? Apparently, it's just really well done, and it becomes a courtroom thriller that is also, Travers says, really about the battle of the sexes. Number 3 on his list, Poor Things. This is Emma Stone's performance as it's basically, this is a Thelma and Louise style movie, I guess you'd say. And Stone plays a pregnant, unhappy wife who, plunges to her watery death in a suicide and is reanimated by a nut job scientist played by Willem Dafoe, who swaps her dead brain for that of her unborn child and waits until she can take baby steps. And it goes on from there. I don't know why that made his list. It sounds weird to me. Number 2, Past Lives. This is the story of a young woman coming back home. She leaves her family home in South Korea and lives in Canada for a while, and then she comes back home and runs into her middle school boy crush, who is still living in the hometown. And this pivotal reunion, Travers says, of the reuniting of Nora and Hao Sang, says it really tells a beautiful story of life in 2 vastly different countries, Canada and South Korea, when these two meet again. And finally, number 1 for Travers, he is on his top 10 list for 2023 from ABC News. It was a tie for him between Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer. But he still had Barbie on his list, just way down there at number 10. I'd probably put it a bit higher. I talked to Craig Peterson about putting together a best of 2023 list. We didn't have time to do that. So I made my own in the year of audiobooks, I guess you'd say. But I challenged myself. I thought about this. So I probably listened to about 25, 26 almost. I'm about 3/4 of the way through what will probably be the last one I'll get to in 2023. So 26 audiobooks that I've listened to, all nonfiction. And I sat and thought which one. So I didn't want to do which one was my favorite, which one was the absolute best written, or because there's so much bias that can get in there. Topics that interest me more, of course, are going to get weighted more as far as the best list go. So I decided, what book did I have the most reaction to as I listened to it, either positively or negatively? What book, as I was listening to it, did I catch myself more and more often, stopping what I was doing to listen? And I usually listen to these while working out. And so I thought, which book did I catch myself kind of just pausing and listening, either in shock? And it became a tie in my mind between, and so I guess these are my 2 recommendations for best nonfiction books of 2023. One was not published in 2023. It was actually published years and years ago. One was. So the first on my best list for 2023 was Romney, A Reckoning by McKay Coppins, published this year. And the reason it grabbed my interest so much was really not any revelations it had about Romney, although there's a lot of interesting stuff about his family, his upbringing, his thought process behind some of the key decisions he made as a presidential candidate, as a governor, and eventually as a senator here in Utah. So there's a lot of interesting kind of political behind-the-scenes stuff that was great. And his own thoughts on his impeachment vote, his vote to impeach Donald Trump, and more. Great listen. But what really grabbed my interest and had me sometimes standing there slack-jawed, forgetting where I was, were these details about the inner workings of the United States Senate. And to be more specific, details about some of the absolute cowards that call themselves leaders in the United States these days. People who were telling Romney one thing quietly in private, supporting him, and then going on CNN or Fox and saying the opposite because they were scared of the political ramifications of being honest and having a spine. That book affected me. I mean, I knew this was a thing for some people. I was shocked to learn about how many of our United States senators lack even a hint of backbone. So that book affected me quite a bit. The other that really affected me was a book by historian Greg Grandin that was actually published a few years ago. I believe it was 2010, something like that. I'm sorry, 2015 when it was published, called Kissinger's Shadow. I listened to this one, of course, because Kissinger passed away a couple weeks ago. One of the most famous men in statecraft, international politics, foreign policy. In fact, can you name anyone else who wasn't at least recently an elected official that you can remember the last name of in this world, in state departments, in international policy, all of that? Kissinger, of course, famous or infamous, if you will, for atrocious acts committed during the lead up to and the early part of Nixon's presidency. An invasion of Cambodia that killed so many people and was basically an illegal war, disastrous and secret illegal war that Kissinger almost single-handedly invented, to Kissinger's more positive role in Middle East peace and specifically, keeping in check some of the idealistic and extremist factions around decisions in Afghanistan and Iraq. And our involvement there. It was a fascinating listen. You will not come away from this liking the guy any more than you already do, or hating the man any more than you already do. But really, you will come away having to admit that, love him or hate him, this was one of the most influential people in global foreign policy in more than a generation. And he did it all simply because he found it a challenge. It's a fascinating listen. It's called Kissinger's Shadow, Greg Grandin, The Long Reach of America's Most Controversial Statesman, published in 2015. So those are my two book recommendations, books that affected me the most in 2023. Romney, A Reckoning, and Kissinger's Shadow. I've linked both on our Facebook page. We'll be back with more For the People right after this.
Are you a business owner or HR director that's frustrated with your current employee benefits? If you are confused about coverages and can't get a hold of your agent, it's time for a change. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance and Alera Benefits. As an independent agency, we will give you options. Let us give your benefits package a fresh look. Call Quality First Insurance and Alera Benefits today, 435-752-0101.
Are you in need of excellent surgical care? Budge Clinic General Surgery offers the future of surgery with state-of-the-art robotic-assisted procedures. From cancer treatments to surgical needs, they've got you covered. Call Budge Clinic General Surgery today, 435-716-1950, to schedule a consultation and experience the best possible outcome. Trust Doctors Anderson, Marshall, McKenna, and Peterson, the experts at Budge Clinic General Surgery, helping people live the healthiest lives possible.
For more than a century, S. Needham Jewelers has been repairing jewelry and watches in Cache Valley. We do all our work on premises, and you may even talk directly with our expert technicians. We also have today's state-of-the-art equipment, including a laser welder that will repair jewelry with precision. We guarantee our work and offer competitive prices. So whether repairing your precious wedding ring, sizing a ring, or simply changing a watch battery, come to Utah's oldest jewelry store at today's newest technology and repair. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Lists and best of and worst of and more, just recapping 2023 throughout most of this week here on the show. I love my lists, and there's a lot to get to. We will get back to business as usual starting right out of the gate next week. In fact, Representative Dan Johnson joining us as our very first guest of 2024. He'll give us a legislative preview and in-depth look at some of the legislation he's putting his own name on in the upcoming legislative session. So be sure to be here for that. Our first show of 2024, January 2nd. Dan Johnson joining us to talk about the upcoming session, which is going to be an interesting one, to say the least. But this was a fun list. I've linked to it on our first Facebook page, But so there's this organization out there called Democracy Docket. And their entire purpose is to serve as sort of a nonpartisan tracker of politics, but politics as it pertains to elections. And so they highlight when states do things that make it easier for people to vote or when they do things to make it harder for people to vote. And they just kind of track that stuff as a way to get word out. And so all of their journalists were asked to submit their best of list from a bunch of different topic or categories this year, biggest win for the judiciary. That was another one. The winner, by the way, was voting rights for attorneys. I don't know exactly what that means because I'm not an attorney, but these attorneys at Democracy Docket thought that was the biggest judicial story of the year. The state least likely to follow a court order was Alabama. Also don't know the context on that one, but it made me laugh a little bit. Best binge-worthy TV show, Jury Duty, of course. A bunch of elections and democracy-defending attorneys are going to list something like public service as a jurist. Anyway, it is actually a good show. But the one that caught my eye, so now they went out and asked their hundreds of thousands of followers on their various social media channels what to vote on this. And the question was, what was the best political conspiracy theory of 2023? They've done this several years in a row, and they're usually funny answers. But I was surprised at the winner this year because I didn't know this was up for debate. I thought everyone knew. I saw him in person here in Utah, and I thought everyone knew. But apparently, according to hundreds of thousands of votes from those who follow Democracy Docket around the country, said the best conspiracy theory of 2023 was the existence of or lack of existence of Ron DeSantis' heel lifts. I did not know this was up for debate. Honestly, I thought everyone knew he employed heel lifts. If you've seen pictures of him head to toe and you zoom in on his shoes, especially when he's wearing the black boots, it's pretty obvious. And granted, I saw him in person when he was here in Salt Lake from a distance of about 30 feet, but still, clearly a heel lift user. I also don't think that's anything that men should be ashamed about or explain themselves on. But apparently, this was voted best conspiracy theory because shoe experts, I did not know this. This is how silly our politics gets. Shoe experts have been fighting about this in the comments section at national political news site Politico. I had no idea this was going on, but apparently these three shoe experts, shoemakers, one retired, two still working, have been arguing about this in the comments, and those comments have gone on long enough that people have started to read those more than the stories about Ron DeSantis at Politico. it's absolutely fascinating to see. Now, this is all good-natured, by the way. They aren't really arguing with each other, but they've been having a fun conversation about, started out with DeSantis' heel lifts, which actually do, without a doubt, exist, despite what one of the shoemakers argues. He's wrong. But it morphed into a longer discussion from shoemakers, remind you, about our politics and authenticity and how much fakeness we're willing to accept, but also why we, sort of paradoxically box our candidates into these circles where, we want somebody tough, but then we want them to compromise. We want someone bold, but then we don't want them to be too bold. We want them to be pretty normal once they're elected, at least. That we criticize our politicians for changing their mind. We call them flip-floppers. But don't you want a politician that's actually going to learn and maybe change their mind? It's a fascinating conversation, but it won the Democracy Docket Award of the Year for Best Political Conspiracy Theory because it began, at least, with debating Ron DeSantis' heel lifts in his boots. But a fascinating conversation about authenticity in our elected officials played out from there. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. I really hope someone publishes this maybe as a small book one day. It's a great read. Check them out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:34. In 2024, Cache County voters will elect an independent auditor for the first time in more than 10 years. There was a recent external audit of the county's financial practices. That audit by Sage Forensic Accounting, commissioned by the Cache County Council in the fall of 2022, revealed significant concerns over Cache County's internal controls with regard to finances, questionable expenses made or approved by elected officials, and revelations of county employees being instructed by elected officials to withhold information from or misrepresent information given to the county council or its auditors. Other recent audits by state officials raised similar concerns, including probes by the state auditor's office and the Utah Office of Victims of Crime. The confidential report from Sage auditors was made public on the county's website in early December, but county officials contend they have already addressed a number of those financial problems based on earlier partial reports from the external auditors. The overall effect of the county council's corrective measures is to trim the power of the county executive and correct questionable practices of the former county recorder, the county finance director, whose position has since been abolished, and bad advice from the county attorney's office. The creation of the elected post of independent auditor figures in several of corrective actions taken by members of the county council. Utah ranks among the top 10 states in the 2023 America's Health Rankings report, which aims to understand the comprehensive health and well-being of the nation. The report highlights the state has a low prevalence of excessive drinking, a low-income inequality, and has increased the number of mental health care providers, but continues to struggle in other areas, including air quality and other climate risks. Carrie Butler is the executive director of the Utah Public Health Association. She says while Utah has promising statewide numbers, more work needs to be done at the local level to help specific communities.
Our diabetes rate is actually quite low as a state, which means that we have a hard time getting CDC funding for diabetes prevention programming. However, if you look at it at a granular level, we have really high rates of diabetes and prediabetes in a lot of our communities of color.
Butler said it's hard to understand what communities across the state are facing without paying attention to specific disparities. Butler says one thing is certain, Utah's population will continue to grow. She is happy to see more attention to social determinant factors and how they impact overall health in the Beehive State. KVNU News Time is 4:37.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. A coalition of mayors today asking help from the federal government as migrants continue pouring into their cities. Denver Mayor Mike Johnston.
All of our cities have reached a point where we are either close to capacity or nearly out of room. Without significant intervention from the federal government, this mission will not be sustained.
Most of the buses coming from Texas. The High Court in Michigan ruling that former President Trump can be on the ballot in the Republican primary there. This after Colorado ruled that he won't be on that state's ballot. It all concerns whether he's constitutionally barred from running due to the insurrection clause. The U.S. Supreme Court may ultimately decide. A pair of Apple Watch models are back on sale. A halt on their sale temporarily lifted. Apple accused of violating patents in their design. I'm Dave Packer, ABC News.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy skies, low near 20, and then cloudy to start the day tomorrow, and then partly cloudy skies, upper 30s for the high. It was 10 degrees warmer today than yesterday. 33 has been our high this afternoon. Right now we have 31 at KVNU. Hey, the guys at Whole Tree Care trim trees all winter. In fact, winter is the best time to trim because visibility is perfect with no leaves. Plus, your trees are dormant, making it easier on your trees. Call 435-760-6587. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Branch Office Administrator Angela Peterson, bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisor Mike Arnold and Edward Jones. Stocks closed mostly high on Wednesday, with the S&P 500 continuing the rally that began nearly 8 weeks ago. Stocks are now in the middle of the Santa Claus rally period. Traditionally, the last 5 trading days of December and first 2 trading days of January. Historically, the S&P 500 has been positive during this period 79% of the time, up by an average of 1.6%. Today, the Dow closed up 111 points at 37,657. The Nasdaq closed up 25 points at 15,099. The S&P 500 closed up 7 points at 4,782. And in the bond market, 10-year Treasury yields are trading at 3.79%. The price of crude oil was down $1.71 at $73.86. And the spot price of gold was up $19.80 to $2,890.60. In the stock of local interest, Autoliv was up 49 cents at 110.98. Chevron was down 50 cents at 151.91. Dominion Energy was down 54 cents at 46.51. Home Depot was down 78 cents at 348.53. Kroger was down 1 cent at 45.21. Lowe's was up 7 cents at 221.89. McDonald's was up $1.69 at 294.55. Microsoft was down 59 cents at 374.07. Nucor was down 38 cents at 177.87. Philip Morris was up 53 cents at 93.78. Walmart was up $1.47 at 157.88. This has been today's financial market report brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, members SIPC, and financial advisor Mike Arnold, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 135 North Main Street, Suite 102 in downtown Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-753-2915.
Hi, this is Chris Wilson at Wilson Motor Company. It's been a great year, and it's not over. We are in the final days of our holiday sales event with clearance prices on over 220 new and pre-owned vehicles. Ford and Nissan have just announced higher rebates and 0% financing on many models, and 1.9% interest up to 72 months on F-150s. Check out our inventory online at wilsonmotor.com, but hurry in. Factory incentives and holiday pricing ends on January 2nd.
Wilson Motor Company. We make car buying easy.
Smokey, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Temperatures being what they are, night times in Cache Valley had me thinking of this again and worrying about those folks out there that might be experiencing homelessness. As we've learned from speaking with people over the last year, homelessness in Cache Valley can mean a bunch of different things, but it can be a chronic issue that someone's been dealing with for a while. It can be for a couple of nights. It can be a family who, a story I know personally know this person. Basement of a home she was renting flooded. The owner decided, the city was going to condemn it without repairs. The owner decided not to do repairs. Just said, well, I'm buying you out of your contract. I'm not going to rent it anymore because I don't want to repair it. Suddenly she was without a place for she and her son to live and had to stay in a house trailer for several months this year trying to find a home because of the housing crunch that exists throughout the state. That's just one example of how a person can end up homeless. Even a family can end up homeless. And tragically, that means some people are spending nights in cars or even completely unsheltered with temperatures what they are. So I was thinking about this again, and here on the show today, we'll revisit a conversation we had in early December with the new director of something known as the William A. Bernard Warming Center. We had a chance to talk with new executive director Lindsay Harrelson about what you can do.
And also that I can share and educate on homelessness in the Cache Valley area. We do have homelessness here in Cache Valley. I believe that the point-in-time count, the PIT count last year, it indicates that we have at least 200 homeless persons living in the Cache Valley area. Typically, you may not see the homeless people on the streets. One reason is that they camp in the Green Canyon area, and then another reason is that we're very fortunate to have Bragg, the Bear River area, addressing some of the homeless issues as well. But unfortunately, there's not enough funds to address those issues and get hotel vouchers and housing vouchers for our homeless citizens, and that's where the William A. Bernard Warming Center comes in.
And we learned from that point-in-time survey, but also from stories from the Warming Center operating last year, that homelessness, a lot of us, when we hear that word, we think of a certain type of situation, but it comes in all forms. And I was struck, Lindsay, last year to learn that there was a family, 2 adults and 2 small children, that had been living in their van because of surprise changes with their job situation and an inability to find housing for a period of time. And that led them to a situation when it was, getting down to 20 degrees at nights, sleeping in their van as they waited for their new housing option to become available. And that went on for a couple of weeks for this family. And when I tell people that story, they're often shocked that that happens in Cache Valley. But that's exactly what the Warming Center is about, right?
Yes, absolutely. When we think of homeless people, yes, there's a stigma there that maybe someone has done something that almost causes or would just make sense. Of course they're homeless. They made this poor decision, so now they're homeless, and that's just not the case. If you were to look at a map of the United States and look at the homelessness population, the rate of homelessness in a certain area, and then you were to overlay it with the cost of houses, buying houses, you would see that there's a direct relation with the cost of living in an area and homelessness. Especially during COVID and different issues that arose during COVID, we saw more and more where middle-class families have been affected with circumstances and issues that we typically find happen with folks who are facing poverty. So yes, homelessness does affect more than just maybe that stigma or that stereotypical homeless person. Last year we had many employed persons who were staying at the Warming Center, and yet due to the cost of housing in the area, and this is pretty typical throughout the United States, due to the cost of housing, it turned them to being unsheltered.
Sure. And I also think people oftentimes feel that they're insulated from this. I've spoken with folks who've ended up in this situation, and they've explained to me how quickly it happened to them. Just a series of events, a perfect storm for one family I know of events that led them to a situation where, here they are. And oftentimes pride, there are a lot of factors, but they don't reach out for help. And that's where we as community members can come in, right, to spread word on the Warming Center. But I know, Lindsay, that all of you there take careful steps to be considerate of that fact. This isn't something that many people would want broadcast, across the valley if they're in this situation temporarily. Others, I assume, are just glad to have the help and have no further questions. But this is all handled carefully, right?
Yes, our mission, our purpose at the WAB Warming Center is to offer a safe, warm, inviting place of dignity where we treat our guests with respect and dignity when they come to the Warming Center. I've recently heard a person who had experienced homelessness explain that she did her best to stay in the shadows of the community because she was so embarrassed, and she did not reach out to even her own family because she was embarrassed that she could somehow not manage her finances in a way that she thought that she should have been able to avoid the situation. And this is a person who served in our military, who was employed full time, a high school graduate. And because of that embarrassment, it was very hard for her to reach out. So we're very mindful of that when our guests come in, and we treat them with the respect and dignity that any human deserves.
Sure. Steps are taken, of course, to ensure safety and privacy for families and individuals who are utilizing the resources of the Warming Center. And it is a simple process to get in touch. And if you or anyone needs help, please reach out to them. You can find out everything you know at the William A. Bernard Warming Center website, which is WAB, William A. Bernard, WABwarmingcenter.org. And I've linked to that on our Facebook page. And Lindsay, this is a nonprofit effort that has been, again, entering into its second year, opening up next week, December 4th, as I understand it, for services to the Valley. And you depend on community support. That's actually an understatement, right? This is entirely community-driven. How can people help?
Thank you for bringing that up, because yes, the first year was entirely volunteer-driven, and it's amazing the altruistic hearts of these volunteers and what they were able to start and then ensure that it goes into a second season. I'm so impressed and grateful to these volunteers. Folks who are interested in volunteering and donating, they can go to the WABwarmingcenter.org website, and they can either click into Get Involved, and we have volunteer options that are both on-site, where they can volunteer with our guests, and we also need quite a bit of help with off-site opportunities, such as doing laundry. We need clean blankets every night, and we need folks to help us with taking those blankets to the laundromat and bringing them back. So plenty of opportunities to volunteer, and then we also we have a donations tab on our website that folks can click into and offer in that way.
And please do, if you can volunteer time. As Lindsay mentioned, laundry services, anything like that would help. If that's not an option for you, donations, in financial donations through the website. There is a big donate button there on the website. And again, that is WABwarmingcenter.org, William A. Bernard Warming Center. And Lindsay, the founding of this Warming Center comes with its own story. I remember speaking with one of the co-founders, I guess, last year. And the name, William A. Bernard Warming Center, comes from a story of finding out that a family member, her grandmother, grandfather, if I remember correctly, had spent some time without a home, and that was news to the family, right? That had never been known before. They found out that this had gone on for an extended period of time and had been very difficult for their grandfather, understandably. And that, I think, is a good reminder that none of us are immune to this, and so getting involved and spreading the word about resources like the Warming Center and more can play a big part in making sure someone doesn't end up sleeping in a minivan and when it's 20 degrees outside overnight, as has happened here in Cache Valley. And Lindsay, I thought this was great too. The Warming Center hours have been set up to correspond with everything from public transit to making it easier for volunteers to be involved with some of the shifts available there. It's obviously taken a lot of coordination on your part.
Oh, yes. And again, a lot of that coordination, that was all set up, started, implemented, modified, improved by volunteers and by board members way before I came along. And so, again, I'm just always very impressed by the efforts that these folks put forth. I do want to point really quick, I forgot to mention that we also have information about the WAB Warming Center on our Facebook, and we do have an Amazon wish list that folks can get to through our Facebook page.
Oh, perfect. So if you're doing your holiday shopping online, you can make each purchase help when it comes to the WAB Warming Center. Great news. For listeners, I'll link to those on our Facebook page as well. And again, if you can help in any way, donate money, donating time and more, but also just spreading the word on this, making sure that the word gets around that the Warming Center is up and operational as of December 4th, and will operate through the winter months to keep people safe, to keep people with a warm place to sleep. Again, this could be someone who just needs this resource for a night. It could also be a family that needs it for a couple of weeks. The housing situation in Utah has led to displacement and homelessness like we've never seen before, with people suddenly finding somewhere they're renting is not going to be available, and they don't have time to find something else because there's so little out there. This has literally happened to people you just don't know it, right? It's all around us, even if we're not hearing about it, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's just so unfortunate. And at the Warming Center, we truly believe that every person deserves a second, third, fourth, 100th chance, because we're all human. And as you said, no one is above experiencing this type of circumstance. We're, 1-2 degrees away from just something unfortunate occurring.
That was, again, our conversation earlier this month with new executive director of the William A. Bernard Warming Center, now in its second year of operation here in Cache Valley. As you heard from Lindsay, their need for financial support and so volunteer support as well. If you can help them out in any way, you can visit the William A. Bernard Warming Center website for details, but also something good you can do. That is WABWarmingCenter.org. I've linked to it on our Facebook page again here today. But spreading the word. Oftentimes those experiencing homelessness, especially those in a temporary situation, are too proud to let word get out or ask for help. So spread the word. Make sure they know, that everyone knows of this resource in case it pops up in their lives or the lives of someone they love. William A. Bernard Warming Center, again, can be found at WABWarmingCenter.org in its second year of operation, expanding things here in Cache Valley. And thanks again to Lindsay Harrelson for spending some time with us. Thanks to our listeners for spending some time with us as well. More recapping of 2023 coming up right after this here on KVNU.
The Campfire Grill at Conestoga Ranch in Bear Lake is now open year-round. As you snowmobile, ski, or just enjoy a drive to Bear Lake, enjoy the Campfire Grill restaurant for a one-of-a-kind dining experience. Chefs prepare an entire menu of delicious favorites plus wood-fired pizzas and salads with the freshest local ingredients. Happy holidays from the Campfire Grill and Conestoga Ranch in Garden City, Bear Lake. Open Thursday through Saturday all winter. Walk-ins welcome, reservations recommended. Go to campfiregrillrestaurant.com for details and reservations.
Don't let concerns about today's events derail your long-term financial strategy. Edward Jones Financial Advisors can help work with you to understand today's financial landscape and how to be positioned for the long term. Edward Jones can give you the tools for a reasoned, disciplined approach to investing. Get started by calling one of the 7 Edward Jones locations in Cache Valley. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome to Smart Construction, true craftsmen bringing your ideas to life. Smart Construction in Bear Lake wishes everyone a safe and wonderful holiday. Whether you're looking for a lakefront retreat in Bear Lake or the perfect mountain escape, Smart Construction guarantees excellence. Each home is meticulously designed and built for you to enjoy for generations to come. Smart Construction would also like to say thank you for voting them this year's People's Choice winner in the Top of Utah Parade of Homes. At Smart Construction, there are no compromises. Because it's not a smart home until it's perfect. See Smart Construction on Instagram at Smart Builder or search Smart Construction.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru with Morris Columbus Travel and Delta Vacations with double discounts on your air and hotel packages to the sunny beaches of Hawaii and Mexico, to Europe and the Caribbean, and you saved like never before. And for the best travel deals on the planet, give us a call at Morris Columbus Travel.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Nelson, board-certified, fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon, and I want to restore your active, pain-free life. I've been an innovator in the treatment of knee pain caused by arthritis and sports injuries for 27 years. I'm the only surgeon in northern Utah to offer Omnibotics, a robotic-assisted knee replacement for your arthritic knee, which has a 97% patient satisfaction rate. Don't live with your knee pain another day. Visit drkeithnelsonortho.com. That's drkeithnelsonortho.com.
Hi, this is Mike Gavin filling in for Gordon Deal. Thursday on This Morning, America's First News. With animosity over politics at an all-time high, some groups are trying to take down the temperature. We'll have an inside look. Plus, why we're in a much better place on inflation at the end of 2023 than we were when it started. And why the backlash against tipping has begun. All that and more Thursday on This Morning, America's First News.
From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Following the big stories, News Talk KVNU, Logan, proud to be locally owned and operated by the Cache Valley Media Group.